Hey everybody, welcome to Waking to Glory. I'm Jeanette Ross, and today I want to encourage you on the topic of faith, but I want to go at it from a very specific angle, and that is to talk about God's characteristic in relation to faith. And what I mean by that is that I see in the Bible that God is always faithful to meet us in whatever measure of faith we are operating in. And so he has taken the pressure of us performing somehow and needing to prove our faithfulness and the faith that we have by him coming and stepping towards us in whatever measure of faith we have. In Romans 12:3, it is very clear to tell us that faith is a gift from God, that it's his faith that he gives to us. It's not even our own faith. It's God's own faith that he has, that he gives and imparts to his sons and daughters. And to each one, he gives a different measure of faith. And I believe that measure can change, it can grow, it can get bigger over time, but we're all given a measure of faith that we use and operate in. And so oftentimes we make the mistake of looking and viewing somebody who is in a period of waiting for breakthrough, something that's going on, whether it's in their own physical bodies, whether it's a situation. Somehow they're operating faith and trusting God for something, and they're waiting to see that breakthrough come. And sometimes we can look at those people and make the judgment of saying, they just need a little bit more faith. And if they did, then they would see their healing. Or if they just activated their faith a little bit more, then they would see that change and breakthrough in their marriage or whatever they're wanting or believing for. But I don't think that that is fair for us to make that assessment, because when I look at the Bible and I look at the life of Jesus and how he's interacting with people, I never ever see Jesus tell people that they need more faith. He never ever turns anybody away that is needing healing, salvation, or deliverance in any area or capacity in their life, and turns them away saying, I'm sorry, I can't do this for you today. You need to come back at me when you have more faith. No, you don't see that. That's ridiculous. Jesus is operating in God's perfect love and connected perfectly to the heart of the Father. And God's heart is always to heal, always to save, always to deliver. And so that is what Jesus is bringing people. And when he's interacting with people, you see that their faith levels are all over the map. Some people seem to have this amazing faith that he'll point out, and some people don't have any faith at all. And Jesus yet meets them wherever they're at and whatever they're operating in, and he saves, he heals, and he delivers. So it's not fair for us to look at our own life and think that we lack faith or to make that judgment on others. It's just putting a heavy on them. I think that's a religious spirit. It's a religious burden that we're putting on people, that they have to somehow do more or be more in order to get breakthrough. So what I want to do is talk about this over the course of 4 videos. And today we're going to look at the subject of, oh dear, lost my places. But I will find them real quick. We're going to look at 2 different cases where people are dealing with blindness and how Jesus responds to them and their levels of faith. So let's first look at Matthew 9. We see a story of these 2 blind men who are actually believers in Jesus. Listen to how they address Jesus as they talk to him. It says, 2 blind men followed along behind, shouting, "O Son of King David, have mercy on us." They went right into the house where he was staying. They just follow him right in. And Jesus turns and asks them, "Do you believe I can make you see?" And they say, "Yes, Lord, we do." Then he, Jesus, touched their eyes and said, "Because of your faith, it will happen." Now, I know you could be reading along or hearing that and think, well, Jeanette, isn't that just supporting what you're saying God isn't about? It may seem like that at first glance. Certainly, we see that Jesus is asking them where their faith level is, and then through their faith, it seems like he's healing them. But we see that these are believers. They are trusting that Jesus is who he says he is. They're calling him the Son of King David. They are calling him Lord. These are people that are living in surrender to this man, Jesus, that they believe is the son of King David, and all that that implies, right? And Jesus is assessing their faith. He's saying, "Do you believe that I can heal you?" And they're saying, "Yes, we do." And so it's almost like Jesus is using some sort of litmus test to see, okay, where is your level of faith? Okay, you believe I can heal? Great, let's do it. And he does. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because of their level of faith that Jesus was then able to heal. Because look at this other account in John 9. It's another case of somebody being blind, in this case from birth. And we meet this man as the disciples are asking Jesus, what has made this man blind? Did somebody sin? Did his parents do something wrong? And that's why he is blind. And Jesus says, no, neither. And then Jesus, spat on the ground and made mud from the spittle and smothered the mud over the man's blind eyes and told him, go and wash in the pool. So the man went where he was sent and washed and came back seeing. And then it says everyone freaked out. The neighbors, everybody in the town were all rejoicing and just couldn't believe it, because here this man had been blind since birth, and now suddenly he can see. And the Pharisees hear about all this commotion and call for the man to come and stand before them and tell them what has gone on. They want to know, how did this happen? And the man says to them, a man they called Jesus made mud and smoothed it over my eyes and told me to go to the pool and wash off the mud. I did, and I can see. And the Pharisees press further later and say, well, who do you think this man is? And he says, I think he must be a prophet sent from God. And then they go on to say, we, the Pharisees, don't believe that Jesus is a good person. In fact, they say Jesus is an evil person. And the man says in reply, I don't know whether this Jesus is good or bad, but I know this, I was blind and now I see. So we're looking at this example of a man who doesn't even know who Jesus is, and in fact didn't even ask to be healed. There's no record of anybody asking on his behalf or he himself asking Jesus to heal. Jesus just does it. He doesn't ask the man what kind of level of faith. The man, after Jesus leaves, he doesn't even know who he is, or whether he's even good or bad. All he knows is that he was healed. And so there is, in essence, hardly any level of faith. The only faith that you can see is that Jesus told him to do something and the guy listened and went and did it, but it wasn't because he had faith that Jesus was the Son of God or anything about what the Bible had prophesied. He just knows some guy is doing something, and you figure he's probably thinking, I might as well, what can it hurt? And then amazingly, he can see. And so in these cases, it's not the people and their faith, it's Jesus stepping in to wherever those people's faith were. In the first case, those two men, their faith was high. They believed that Jesus was who he was, and Jesus met them there. And in this case with the man who had been blind since birth, hardly any faith at all, definitely not in Jesus. And Jesus still, in perfect love, delivers the perfect will of God, which is to bring this man back to restoration and healing his eyes, letting those eyes see as God planned and had purpose when they were first created to be able to see. So this is my encouragement to you. First of all, don't put on other people judgment of thinking they need to do something in order to earn some sort of favor or get their faith at a certain level for God to finally be able to break through, because that is rubbish. And don't put that burden on yourself. You've been given a measure of faith. You're using that. And there are times that we have to wait and we don't really understand all of that, but Jesus will step in and meet you wherever your level of faith is, because that's the kind of God that we serve. That is the kind of God that we love. And I want you to know and understand him and see him that way, that he will step towards you and meet you wherever you're at. Okay, guys, be blessed.